People of Utah to decide whether or not Senator Mike Lee is saying anything remotely associated with the truth. But here are the facts. On December 8th, Mike Lee texted Chief of Staff Mark Meadows this, quote, "If a very small handful of states were to have their legislatures appoint alternative slates of delegates, there could be a plan." Now, that's not chasing down a rumor, right? It's enabling Donald Trump's conspiracy to overturn the will of the American people. It's called a coup. As you heard, though, Senator Lee did eventually vote to certify the election when the coup failed. But the scheme isn't the only thing Republicans are being asked about on the stump. The actual events of January 6th are also part of the conversation. Here's the exchange from last night's first and only debate between Lee and his independent challenger, who you just saw there, Evan McMullin.
To keep a president who had been voted out of office according to the will of the people in power despite the will of the people. Senator Lee, it is a betrayal of the American Republic. You were there to stand up for our Constitution, but when the barbarians were at the gate, you were happy to let them in.
Yes, there were people who behaved very badly on that day. I was not one of them. I was one of the people trying to dismantle this situation, trying to stop it from happening, because I believe in this document written by the hands of wise men raised up by God to that very purpose.
Senator Lee has been doing this thing with his pocket constitution for the last several years. Senator Lee, it is not a prop. It is not a prop. Senator Lee, the Constitution is not a prop for you to wave about and then when it's convenient for your pursuit of power to abandon without a thought.
Joining our coverage, former Maryland Congresswoman and MSNBC contributor Donna Edwards. Michael Steele is still here. Michael Steele, the only thing Mike Lee sought to dismantle was the will of the people. And it's amazing, and we'll see if it's effective. This is a tough state. But it's amazing how effective Evan McMullin is in just laying out the facts of what Mike Lee and a whole lot of Republicans did around January 6th.
Well, in one sense, it's not amazing when you tell the truth and you have the Constitution on your side. I mean, he's absolutely right. Anyone can pull out their pocket Constitution and wave it. Hey, you want to see one? Here you go. I got one right here. All right. If you can do this all day long. It's like Trump's Bible,
right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Here's our pocket Constitution, right? Because this is how they see it, upside down. And so the fact of the matter is, when you're explaining, you're losing. And Mike Lee spent a good portion of that debate trying to explain away his behavior. Evan McMullin appropriately and accurately said, okay, here are the facts. You were part of the plan. We have the text messages of you actually saying, hey, if you go with these false electors, that could be an effective part of the plan. And so now you want to throw up your Constitution and pretend like you were somehow some champion for American pie and justice in the words on these pages? No. But you're right. Voters ultimately have to make this decision. That's what this election boils down to. I get the concerns and the gnashing of teeth around the economy and all of that. But at the end of the day, you get this wrong, Nicole, doesn't matter what the price of gas is. It doesn't matter what the inflation rate is. What matters is your ability to adhere to what's in this document. And we have United States senators, from the power salute of Josh Hawley to the behind-the-scene machinations of Mike Lee, undermining this very document. And so at the end of the day, it's going to take good candidates to stand up, I don't care, Democrat, Republican, Independent, who stand with the principles of the Constitution and the principles of this founding democracy, no matter how difficult and painful it has been at times. It still matters that we get it right. And right now we're not. And that's my concern going into the next 3 weeks. And that's why what Evan McMullin did last night is so important, because you have to frame it the right way. And that is just saying, I'm going to lead with the Constitution. And, Senator, right now you're outside the Constitution. And that's what he did.
Yeah, I mean, Donna, what's amazing to me is that there's this conventional wisdom that as economic angst, which is real and justifiable, rises, Democrats' plight falls. What makes a voter think that an autocrat can fix the economy? An autocrat doesn't even plan to respect the results of an election. That's the most economically destabilizing thing on the globe. I mean, the world's weakest economies are the strongest autocracies. How do Democrats communicate on that?
Well, I think it is really difficult because people do sort of see their day-to-day prospects instead of looking at the long haul. But I do think that Democrats have to make that connection between their future economic success and what Republicans would have as our system, and that the system could potentially fall. Mike Lee joins a long list of Republicans who said the right thing on the evening of January 6th and on January 7th, and who have completely switched gears now. I mean, and Mike Lee describing what happened on January 6th as people behaving badly. People behaving badly is like, your kid takes a toy on the playground. This was not just bad behavior. It was insurrectionist behavior. It was violent. There were police officers who were beaten and injured. It threw our complete system into total chaos on January 6th, potentially could have resulted in a major constitutional crisis in this country. And so, Republicans like Mike Lee downplaying what happened on January 6th because they're trying to smooth over maintaining that Republican base really flies in the face of what we need from leaders when it comes to protecting democracy. And I think that Democrats have the challenge of connecting the dots between what some Republicans would have if there were an overthrow of the government, if there were an upheaval in our system, and what people's future economic prospects would be. And I think that we should count on smart voters who can be concerned about democracy in our system and concerned about their pocketbooks.
Well, and they can't be separated, Michael Steele. I mean, you don't even have to go back to 2020. If on the midterms, a bunch of Republicans refuse to accept the results of their elections, that will be economically destabilizing. And if in 3 weeks, Republicans refuse to concede elections if they lose them, that will destabilize the markets more than just about anything else. How do you make that argument prospective?
Yeah, look, it is a challenge, and I think Donna really put her finger on the sweet spot that makes this such a challenge at this stage. Understand where we are. We're 3 weeks out. Yeah, we were having this conversation that some of us was trying to have 8 months ago. Then you have a different runway. You have a different lead up to the conversation. While people are going through the angst, going back to the president's State of the Union, tying democracy into the economic message, tying the economic message into democracy, because, Nicole, as you just put it, they are inextricably linked. If you elect a group of people and the other group that lost the election refused to accept that, and want to refute it and try to overthrow that result, that has a destabilizing impact on the economy as well. It also will drive what you pay for things and your access to supply chain and all of that. So it's making that connection that this democracy is held together by this document, and the economic pieces, the social pieces, the communication, all of that fits on top of that. And you start pulling any one of those out, it all falls. But, my fear is that we're now caught up in the last throes of an election campaign where that message may get lost. Doesn't mean you can't hammer it, and you should. But my hope is that the American people, to Donna's point, see that I have both my economic future and the future of my country in the balance. And with my vote, I want to put them in balance with each other, not out of balance with each other. Right.
And economies do not flourish when democracies are imperiled. I mean, they cannot coexist. Political instability is the greatest killer of economic prosperity. All right.